Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I've been thinking a lot, right? Like I usually do when I do these videos. I just ponder and I say, what are you guys as the viewers really going to get value out of when we're talking about these different areas? And in today's video, we're going to go over some of the good and some of the bad about living in Rio Rancho. Some of these things I've talked about in the past, I really want to elaborate a little bit more on them. That way you guys get a better idea of what's going on down in Rio Rancho. So hang tight, take some notes, and let's get right into the video. Man, it's cold out here. 57 degrees. Whew. As you guys can see, going into October in the mornings, it's gonna start to get cold down here in New Mexico. So be prepared that if you're coming to visit or you're looking to move, really when it starts to become sweater weather, obviously you see me decked out in sweater in some of the recent videos. It's gonna be, late September going into October, early mornings it's gonna get cold. Midday it's still gonna be very nice where you can hang out in a t-shirt and a pair of jeans during the middle of the day, and then back at nighttime it's gonna get cold again. But enough of being the weatherman. Today's video, I really just want to go over some of the key important things that really are going to be important when it comes to living down in Rio Rancho. All right, now you guys can tell that Rio Rancho is very family friendly. Now, when it comes to the communities up there in Rio Rancho, they're really built around bringing the community together with all the different facilities that they have up there, like the aquatic centers, the community centers that are tucked really well in those prime neighborhoods like Loma, Colorado and Cabazon. Of course, we talked about those neighborhoods so much that I'm sure you guys get the idea of what I'm talking about by now. But really, when you're looking at those communities, you can tell that it's really kind of centralized when they put these places up in these master plan communities. That way that they can bring the community together through different kinds of events, just some of the amenities that they have there, making sure that they stay active and they stay close-knit, making sure that, people are really interacting with each other and creating a bond and really coming together in order to make the community that much better. Now, as far as like family events and stuff like that, the community centers are always hosting something. I know recent in here within the next couple of weeks, they got the fall festival coming up where they'll have at the community, one of the bigger community centers, they'll have all these different vendors, games and stuff for the kiddos and prizes and stuff like that that will make that community feel that bond again going into winter, because of course, as you can tell, 57 degrees, it gets a little cold down here, and majority of the time in the winter time you are spending a lot more of your time inside, and so are the kiddos, right? You don't want them playing out there in the freezing, blistering cold. Some kiddos, you'll catch them outside because they're just a little crazy. I was that kid at one point, but nowadays you can catch me inside just because I'm not going to freeze my butt off just to have some fun. I'd rather go inside and have some fun. Maybe it's the old man in me coming out. But other than that, guys, I know that they'll host like movies in the park at Cabazon, and in Loma, Colorado, they got the aquatic center, which, all these different community centers will always have different programs for the kids. I know at the hub, or at Cabazon, I'm sorry, they have what is called, it's called Little Chippers, which is kind of like an intro to golf for children. And if you are bringing along like a parent or whatever it is, they also have senior classes, which they have like aerobics, dance, and all that stuff, arts and crafts. I mean, there's something to do for all age groups. And they also kind of make it really easy for everybody to get involved in those communities. Now, just like I'm holding the camera here in place, it's a balance act, right? Rio Rancho is really good at having a balanced lifestyle, since it's kind of like a suburb of Albuquerque. It's, really not a massive city. It's a growing city, but it's not just like Albuquerque yet. They still have tons of room to grow, but it's still very open. A lot of the housing and development out there is pretty much spread out. So you can just imagine that, after a long day of work, coming home, you're going to be able to go outside and enjoy a nice walk along all these trails, uh, bike along these paths that they've built for the communities, making it really easy and accessible for people to get outside and enjoy some quiet time, especially because there's not a whole lot of people traveling around there after 6 o'clock, just because after that time, a majority of people are already home, having dinner, really relaxing, getting that R&R time with their families, or just spending time by themselves to make sure that they rest up. And from the people that I've helped move over there, that's what they tell me. They said Rio Rancho seems like it's one of those places where if I need to do something, I can travel, 15 to 20 minutes to Albuquerque and get that done, go back home, and I'm going to be in my quiet neighborhood where there's not a whole lot of, traffic stuff going on, cars running back and forth, unless you're closer to those main roads like 528 and Unser, where, that's going to be the pivotal points for people to travel through Rio Rancho. So just keep it mindful that the closer you are to those roads, the more road noise and pedestrians and stuff like that you're going to hear. And if you guys are looking to move to any one of these areas, I am a licensed broker here in the state of New Mexico. And as much as I love doing these videos, I love to help you out with your real estate needs. So that number popping up on the screen here is my direct line. Feel free to take a screenshot, write it down, do what you got to do, and reach out. That way we can hop on a quick video call, really talk about the next steps, pull up the maps, take a look at all these different areas, and really go into detail on what living in these areas really looks like, and kind of do a map walkthrough and all that stuff for you guys. So if that's something you're interested in, feel free to reach out. Let's get on a Zoom call. Let's take care of that and make transitioning to Rio Rancho or even Albuquerque a lot smoother for you guys. But you are going to have, different kinds of amenities as far as balanced lifestyle. So if you are looking for just something to do in Rio Rancho, you're going to have places like Joe's Pasta House, Matucci's, the Rio Puerco off-road highway. And if you just want to have a nice drink and a nice bite to eat, if you go down the road, down to Bosque Brewing, you are going to be in an area where it's a mix of being, still in the outdoors, experiencing a nice view of the Sandia Mountains and enjoying a good bite to eat and a nice cold beer. So if you are moving to Rio Rancho, you are going to be living this balanced lifestyle. You might even look a little bit more rejuvenated, especially if you're coming from these busier cities like New York or California, these states where, it's just a hustle and bustle and the constant grind. So moving to a slow down pace city like Rio Rancho, where the population is just a shy hair over 100,000 people, might be a best fit for you guys. Okay, in terms of affordability, which is going to be a super pro for living out in Rio Rancho. Super pro about living in Rio Rancho is that it is still very affordable. Now, across the board, Rio Rancho has grown a ton, but their home prices haven't gone up much. Believe it or not, in the past year, Rio Rancho's home prices have gone up about 2%, which is below average. Usually homes go up 3.5% in that area. Sometimes even more depending on where you're at and how close you are to those main roads. But you are going to still be able to find a home even under $300,000 in those areas. And it might be more west of Unser. And the only downfall with that, guys, is that you may be dealing with not having public utilities. So you'll have like a septic tank, a well, and you might have electricity. I'm not going to totally say that you're not, because majority of the time electricity has already been ran out there, especially if there's a bigger home, custom home, which is very likely that there is in that area. So don't be fearful. You will be able to have all your electronics run, but you may run into the issue with gas, and you may have a home on propane. Believe it or not, some of those homes still exist out there. And right now the average home price in Rio Rancho is around $330,000, which compared to Albuquerque is just a hair below. So in comparison, either way, whichever area you're looking to move to, it's really going to be dependent on how close you want to be to all these urban amenities. All right, guys, had to get out of the car because the sun was just starting to come right through that windshield like crazy. And it started to warm things up. So figured might as well take a walk. And that really leads me to think about the public transportation out in Rio Rancho. And this being one of the bad things about Rio Rancho, just kind of kicking that off. Rio Rancho doesn't really have a dedicated public transit system. They do have a bus route that runs through Southern down to 528. And it looks like the way that it was designed, it's more or less for the use of the people working at Intel. And it just making it a lot easier for the people living in those neighborhoods off of Southern and 528 to get to and from Intel and not having to really utilize their own vehicles. It, that's the way that it looks, just in my personal opinion. But Rio Rancho, believe it or not, does have a dial-up service. And the unfortunate part is that you gotta apply for that service for them to be able to, walking through these puddles here, don't want to slip and fall on camera. You guys be laughing at me, but you do gotta apply for those dial-up services to make sure that you can qualify. And if you do qualify, a good thing about that service is that they'll even drive you to your doctor's appointments in Albuquerque if it's close enough. Don't know the stipulations. You can hop onto Rio Rancho's website and do a little bit more due diligence yourself and ask them, like, how far into Albuquerque do you guys go with that dial-up service, especially if you are going to be having to commute a lot to your doctor's appointments here for all the specialists that we have in the city in Albuquerque. But other than that, Rio Rancho is doing a good job of putting a lot more money towards making that city a lot more bike-friendly, a lot more pedestrian-friendly for people to just really get around Rio Rancho with ease without having to worry about walking through a lot of dirt, not having ADA compliant sidewalks, all that stuff, right? So they're noticing and paying attention that with all the growth that they're having, they're really going to have to dish out some money to make it a lot better for people to navigate the city. All right, guys. Now, Rio Rancho has very few employers. A couple of the key players up in Rio Rancho that is employing a majority of the population over there are going to be Intel, the two casinos, and the two major hospitals that they have in the area. So if you are thinking about moving to Rio Rancho, you're either going to be in tech, healthcare, or you're going to be in the resort business where you're going to work either at the hotel, the casino, the restaurants that they have in those areas, or at the golf course. So be mindful that if you are moving to Rio Rancho, you're not going to have a whole lot of options. I know a lot of people that, are traveling to and from either Albuquerque or Santa Fe in order to get higher paying jobs or better opportunities, to say the least, because they feel like Rio Rancho, although they do have Intel, which pays very well in the two hospitals and the casinos, they feel like they're stuck in the opinions that I've heard, and they want to make sure that they don't stay there forever. They want to make sure that they meet other people, because it is very local when you stay in Rio Rancho, and a lot of the people that they are serving to in those areas or in those businesses are their neighbors. So little personal opinions from other people that I've heard, just some information, just talking to people in those different work environments, and not a bad thing. Maybe you are someone that likes to stay hyper local, so you are going to want to make sure that, hey, I want to stay within my community, and I want to make sure that I serve the people that I'm living next to. So that's something that you want to do. Rio Rancho is just going to be a good fit for you guys. Okay, now when it comes down to the amenities in Rio Rancho, like this parking lot here, you're not going to have very much. Since Rio Rancho is very family focused and very family oriented, they focus on the more essential stuff like healthcare, food, gas, all those things that you're going to need for daily life in order to keep people really engaged with the community. They got other things like the Hub, which is a newer community center that has a public library, a gym, arts and crafts center, and other things that they do to host either events or classes for the people within the community to keep them coming back, to make them feel like, hey, we're not forgotten. We still got stuff to do out here. So with that being said, a lot of the things that are coming to Rio Rancho are like the bigger name artists with the Rio Rancho Event Center. They've been able to bring big names. You've got a lot of like the newer Mexican bands that have recently came through there. A lot of country artists that are really choosing these venues based off of their size and being able to sell more tickets, I'm assuming. So keep that in mind, that if entertainment like that, you love listening to music, you're going to be super close to one of the more popular venues where a lot of the bigger names are starting to come to. So don't shy away from moving to Rio Rancho because there's not a whole lot to do, because they also have the elevated trampoline park, which is super popular in the area. From what I hear, it's pretty big, and they got all these different like obstacle courses and trampolines for the kiddos to enjoy. And then with all the different outdoor amenities that they have, you're going to be spending a lot more time outside. So if Rio Rancho continues to be a place where you're like, I'm not too sure, what's the lifestyle like? Is it balanced? Is it not? Rio Rancho is very balanced, in my opinion, just based off of the amenities that they have there and kind of like the forced outdoor play that the community still has, making you go outside, enjoy the walking trails, biking trails, and all these different things that they have to offer within their communities. All right, guys, now we talked about some of the more important things that Rio Rancho has to offer as far as a sense of good. And we also talked about the bad, which aren't terrible things. It's just some things that they're lacking on. And as a growing city, you can kind of expect that, right? And hopefully within the next 10 years, they'll have a ton more amenities. And when we do this video again, we'll be talking about all those brand new amenities. But if you are looking to move to a place like Rio Rancho, guys, or Albuquerque or any other city like that in New Mexico, again, that number popping up on the screen is my direct line. And as much as I love doing this, I would love to help you out with your real estate needs. So feel free to reach out at any time. Take a screenshot, write the number down, do whatever you got to do. That way we can hop on a quick Zoom call and talk about what the next steps are when it comes down to moving places to places like Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, and any other city at that in the state. And I'd love to put you on the right track to ensure that you're getting all the right information for number one, and making sure that we make those connections for you when you are moving down here. But I had a fun time with you guys making this video, doing this walk and talk. Do me a huge favor and comment down below and let me know what city you want me to talk about next. I know a couple of people have asked about Los Lunas and Placitas, and we'll be heading that way just to make sure that we touch on those areas as well, because they have a ton to offer. Trust and believe that all these cities around us are growing, and we love to make sure that you get the information before you make the move down here. But enough for me, guys. I'm gonna head back to the office and have a good day. Peace.